Despite the overwhelming outcry by Nigerians against the plan to retrace and recover grazing route across the 36 states of Nigeria, the federal government is not showing any sign of relenting. Our findings reveal that stock routes, popularly called grazing routes, are currently being retraced and recovered by the federal government for header to graze their cattle. The federal government said this was meant to address the clashes between the herdsmen and farmers. Although some of the routes are believed to have been encroached upon due to human activities, it was found out that the government has embarked on a process of identifying monuments along the routes in order to get them back as locations for cattle grazing. Contrary to the expectation of many Nigerians, particularly in the south, that the grazing route retracing and eventual recovery might not see the light of the day, officials of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development told one of our correspondents on Friday that the route recovery would still go on. They, however, said it would be done mainly in non-conflict zones. They also stated that routes that had been encroached upon as a result of development of public infrastructure might be left out of the recovery exercise. The Acting Director, Animal Husbandry Department, FMARD, Winnie Lai Solarin, stated that while cattle ranching has been one of the major options canvassed for by headers, not every pastoralist would be able to afford ranching at the moment. She said, and I quote, there are some stock routes that we have across the country, and in the past we have monuments along these stock routes, particularly the primary routes. And in the course of farming or other human activities along those stock routes, the monuments were altered, but we know where they are, so we are saying that some of them can be retraced, and this is particularly for areas that are not encroached upon as of now. The pastoralists know the routes, and on some of these routes, you will see the pieces of the monument along them. Lysolari added, he said, so for those that are not encroached upon and are not in the conflict zone, we will go ahead to retrace and guide the pastoralists along them. We didn't get to where we are today in one day, and so we cannot expect that every pastoralist should suddenly start ranching now. Some would still have to move, but let's keep the movement as safe as possible and in areas that are not conflict zones. That is what I am saying. We are not going to retrace stock routes where there are infrastructures that are for public good. Another official at the FMARD familiar with the development stated that the government was not happy with the killing associated with clashes between herdsmen and farmers. The official, who requested not to be named for lack of authorization, explained that the stock routes were in 3 classes. The source disclosed, we need to create safe places that are easy for them, as for headers, to graze their cattle so that they won't need to travel on the road. We have primary and secondary stock routes, and in some cases, we have tertiary stock route. Providing further explanation on the 3 classes of route, the official said that the primary stock routes are the major routes that run in a north to south direction from Sahel to the coastal markets. And then there are some major routes that run interstate from north, while others run intrastate. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Sabo Nanono, has announced on Thursday that the Federal Capital Territory and 22 states had registered for the National Livestock Transformation Plan as part of measures to establish grazing reserve in their domain. He has also announced that 7 of these states had earmarked 400,000 hectares of land for initiative, as the establishment of grazing reserve were currently ongoing in Nasarawa, Borno, Niger, Kaduna, and some other states. 22 states the Federal Capital Territory have registered with the NLTP office, out of which 10 states have created their own team, which have been trained by the federal office. He explained that 7 of the 10 states earmarked about 19 grazing reserves for the implementation of the NLTP, with a total land size of approximately 400,000 hectares. The NLTP was designed by the federal government to address the lingering farmer herders crisis across the country. Vice President Yemi Osibanjo, who inaugurated the plan in 2018 at the Gongoshi Grazing Reserve in Mayobewa local government area of Adamawa State. The plan was designed to run for 2019 to 2028 as a collaborative project among the federal and the state government, farmer pastoralists, and private investors. In February 2021, the federal government said it has mapped out 30 grazing reserves across the country for the NLTP implementation. However, some states, especially in the south, has rejected the idea, saying they had no land to donate to the federal government for the initiative. They said any individual who wants to go into ranching should rather look for land and buy. But in a new twist, the President Major General Muhammadu Buhari, retired, during a recent interview with Arise Television, supported open grazing. He said he has directed the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, to produce a gazette which delineates grazing routes in all parts of the country in the First Republic. The president stated, "What I did was to ask him to go and dig out the gazette of the First Republic when people were obeying the law. There was cattle route and grazing area. Cattle routes were for when the herdsmen were moving up country, north to south or east to west. They had to go through there." The president's statement triggered a lot of reactions from Nigerians. Wow. It's a long read, but it's worth it because with what we are seeing now, there is no plan by the federal government to stop the issue of reallocating or retracing the grazing routes in the country, which means that this issue of herders moving around has come to stay, which means that there's nothing Nigerians can do about it. Is either we learn to cohabit them or coexist with them, or then you check out so that they will continue, because already from what the president has said and from what the Ministry of Agriculture is currently doing is towards ensuring that the act of rearing animal, which Nigerians consider to be archaic, moving animals from one place to the other, still stand. That's talking about open grazing, still stand. So for now, ranching is not considered by the federal government, and at this point, I don't know what will be happening, because the southern governors are still standing their ground that for them there is nothing like open grazing. Anyone who needs to engage in grazing or needs to engage in cattle rearing must learn to stand by what they are putting forth as conditions. But then I like to leave it. They go to a comment section.